So although kind of jumping from one thing to the other, kind of like what I had time and opportunity to work on at that time. Remember, this is mostly a hobby. I don't get paid to do this. I think a lot of the speakers here don't get paid to do what they're presenting. So the previous research was the work that kind of was around, did it between 2003, 2004, published in 2005. In the meantime, technology progressed. We are able to extend the profile that we can get from a Y chromosome. So before we had 24 numbers, 24 allele values, markers that makes that profile. Now we have up to 43 of them. So almost double the amount of information that we know for that particular lineage. Why is that important? It's because the more you have, as you compare that, the more accurate you can be with things like the molecular clock, the number of generation estimates, and with matching purposes. Although you might run into some more difficulties. In this example, the more right here, for example, we observed that between two of the lineages of Alexander Hale, two individuals that we tested, there was a mutation that took place in one of the branches. Now we know that Joseph Smith still had a 12 here. This might not be very interesting to you, but it's very interesting to me, so I'm going to share with you. But Joseph Smith still has a 12 because, again, here we have a descendant of Alexander Hale, here a descendant of Joseph Smith. So if these two have a 12 and this one is an 11, we know that the true and ancestral value was 12, and the 11 value is the mutation from the original value. I talked to you about random mutation. But here we have a different situation where both lines of Alexander have a 30, and the line from Joseph III has a 31. So now here you cannot say confidently if Joseph Smith had a 30 or a 31. And so since I'm kind of meticulous and like to be precise with my things, I wanted to find out if it was a 30 and 31 as well. And the last things I did, I will talk more about it toward the end of the presentation about what is an haplogroup. Basically, all these values together make an individual Y chromosome signature, which is called haplotype. Haplotypes sharing similar characteristics are grouped together in a family, and that's called a haplogroup. Okay, so individuals in this room that might have different Y chromosome signatures might still fit into the same haplogroup as long as they share some specific genetic characteristics. Okay, now this might not mean a lot to you right now. It will be later on in the presentation, but this time we kind of ran also an estimate of what could be the haplogroup based on these markers, and we got this weird code for you. It's our R1b. But how did I go about to find what the true value was? So I went around and tested additional Smith lines. So now rather than looking at Joseph Smith Jr. as the most recent common ancestor, I look at his father. And based on DNA that I collected at this reunion, I had direct paternal lineages that were shared with Hiram and with Samuel. So now I have additional individuals I can test, compare the DNA of all these people, and now I notice that the 30 is the value that goes back to Joseph Smith Sr. So 31 was the mutated value in the Joseph Smith third line. So now I know for sure that Joseph Smith also has a 30th, and so now I have a very accurate 43 marker Y chromosome profile for the prophet. Now, this was kind of like, what I was doing until somebody came forth and say, hey, remember there is also in Von Brody book, there is something about Oliver Norman Buell potentially being his child, and there is this extensive, actually Von Brody focuses a lot on him. There is a statement, I don't know how accurate this is, that his mother, Prescindia Huntington, said that she admitted that she didn't know whether or not Norman was Joseph Smith or his father's child, like her husband. And so, this is maybe something that I don't know how accurate that quote is from Prescindia. But then Von Brody goes further with her comment, and she said that the physiognomy from a picture of Oliver Buell seems to weigh the balance overwhelmingly on the Smith paternity. So based on how many times we do the same thing with our genealogy. We look at a picture, we see some Native American feature in our great-great-grandmother and think, oh, maybe she was a Native American because she looks a Native American. You know, we tend to judge a lot somebody's ethnicity or how they're related based, you know, on what they look. And you can see, you know, between Joseph Smith III and Oliver Buell, if you take the beard off, probably there is quite a bit of resemblance. You know, even the hairstyle is the same. You know, I guess, kind of, you know, but. And so these are the references, in case you have that copy of the book. And so now this was a little bit more complex. I like that because I actually had to do a different approach than what I had to do before, in which I could not find two direct descendants whose most recent common ancestor was the man that I tried to verify, which was Oliver Buell. So the only two people I could find goes back to a grandson of Oliver Buell. And so I cannot eliminate the possibility of the milkman syndrome between these two generations. And so now I have this profile, this genetic profile, but I'm still not confident that that is the profile that I need. So what I did is we have a database, it's a public online database that correlates genealogies with Y chromosome markers. And I ran these numbers that I was able to get for these two individuals to see if I would find any matches in this database. And lo and behold, a little miracle happened, really, that there was a Buell in the database. And we share, out of 43 markers, share all but 3 of them with this Buell. Now, my question was, okay, now we have the same surname, very similar, but there are 3 differences. So is this individual related to the other 2 that I already tested, or it's just a coincidence they have the same surname and a very similar Y chromosome? The genealogy of this individual was a little shallow. It could only go back to 1772. I could not find at this point a connection with the Buell genealogy. So I took this information to a group. We have 8 professional genealogists in our organization, and I asked a couple of them, would you mind to see if you can extend this pedigree and find a connection with the Oliver Buell line? And they were able to do that. So these 2 individuals are the one you saw before, back to Owen F. Buell. We know his DNA now. I want to know his DNA so that I can either confirm or exclude if Norman was his father. And the genealogist extended his genealogy all the way to a Samuel Buell, who was brother with a John Buell, who was the ancestor of the individual in the database we just saw. The common ancestor now is a Samuel W. Buell, 1641, so almost 400 years ago, which would have allowed for this 3 mutation to come in, okay, in this time. The genealogical, the time and the genetic clock kind of match right here. And so because of the genealogy said that these individuals are related, these 3 here are related, and the DNA is similar, and the surname is similar, now we can say something about Oliver Buell DNA. Now, it's not that the DNA is right, then it goes wrong, and then it goes right again. So although I don't know Oliver Buell DNA, the fact that I know it for these 3 people, I also can infer confidently for him. Although I still have these 3 mutations, remember? So I have to exclude this 3 mutation right here that you saw before from my comparison with the Joseph Smith haplotype. We also predicted the haplogroup, and it became an I1b2a haplogroup. Remember that Joseph Smith was a different haplogroup, so that's already a first indication that these 2 belongs to 2 different groups. But also the haplotype, the signature, side by side, Joseph Smith and Oliver Buell, very different, completely unrelated people. And so we can confirm based on this information and the genetics that Oliver was indeed a Buell and not a Smith. So again, I hope you wrote those pages down and go back to your phone Brody copy, correct that piece of information right there. Now, another disclaimer I'd like to make. This is all about making history right to me. I don't have absolutely any problem with the fact that Joseph Smith practiced polygamy, or that he was married to other women in the full meaning of being married. I know there is a lot of discussion about, spiritual marriages, physical marriages, and so on and so forth. I don't have absolutely my testimony of Joseph Smith, what I feel for